breezes. I brought with me enough water to drown a small camel, half of it as ice, drank most of it, and still found myself in the healer's tent while they asked me if I was well enough to make the journey home. And well, up on these high rocky ridges where the sky is clear of obstruction and there is no shade, it's likely to get hot. So I was afraid. But we got there, my younger lady and I, and lo and behold, it's cool. Thank goodness, I thought, and put myself forward to the kind folks there as wanting to see if indeed I was the sort of man who could wear armor. And after fine encouragement from yon bard, who did not know what he was starting, I found myself before a generous lady called Kalia, who started digging through the armor once worn by heroes, now to be worn by one such as me. I'd been worried about this moment, hearing stories of how heavy armor was, how one moved in it as if you were swimming through mud and other such warnings. Imagine my delight as I armored legs and chest, though the armor didn't quite close there, leaving me a bit lopsided, and perhaps a tad vulnerable to the left, but at least the gap was on the shield side, and I could dance. Now, and remember, any of you who scoff and mock at my dancing, it's not how well the bear dances, it's that the bear dances at all. Then came the problem. It's hard to see, for I have grown a beard of significant proportion and wear my hair long, but I've not got much of a neck when it comes to the length of it. And I've mostly made that up with the girth of it. It's not quite one of the redwoods you have around here, but it'll do for an oak trunk. And we tried fitting the gorget. And the first one didn't fit. The second one was just ridiculous. The third one, well, it fit the same way the armor did, leaving a gap to one side. But what did it matter? I was just going to put on a helmet, take a buffet or two, and then be convinced that, yes, I can do this. And when they put the helmet on me, I started to feel a little off. Just a little, really. And I found myself wondering whether I should have eaten quite so fine a feast before I came to practice. And whether perhaps I danced a little too hard upon discovering that I could do such a thing. But no real matter, I was prepared. I tied the chin strap down tight as I could and wandered out onto the quiet high plateau of Rock Ridge, ready to receive the blows that would show I was ready. And Kalyak struck the first blow, and my head went over, and she asked, "Are you okay?" Well, I am feeling a little dizzy, maybe just a hair nauseous, but that could be too fine a feast. The dizzy will probably go away, and really, below the neck I feel fine, so I think I'm okay. I could probably handle that again, but not too many more like that, if you know what I mean. Unfortunately, all of that dialogue was in my head. What Kalyak saw was, that was considered a sign that I was not all right after all. And I was quickly sat down, divested of helmet, gorget, and lamellay, while I strove mightily not to lose that fine feast, and found myself sweating like a horse. No, this was not perspiring like a man, this was sweating like a horse. And the sweat panicked me. It did, because I thought to myself, oh, no, here I am sweating, and but a week after I had to leave the fair for sweating, if I can't wear armor even on such a cool night as this, I have no hope of ever wearing it, no matter how well it suits me. And I was crestfallen. I bemoaned my fate, apologizing to my lovely younger lady and to Kalyak and to all who were there for my weakness. And I will say they were all very kind to me. After half an hour had passed or so, I felt well enough to go and take off the rest of the armor. And I headed for home. I consoled myself with the thought, seeing the far lighter armor the rapier fighters of Rockridge wore, that if I could not stand the heat of armor, perhaps I could fight for them instead, even though I am not exactly built like the svelte figures that populate most rapier manuals. The next day, I was explaining to a slightly older lady friend of mine what had happened, in all its terrible detail. The early dancing, the buffet, the silence, the illness and the stripping off of armor, and I remarked that the gorget had pinched a bit. Here. And I stopped. For indeed, if I had been holding a man up against the wall and wishing to render him unconscious from lack of blood to the head, and no, before you worry or applaud, I do not actually have vast experience doing that, I merely know how one would, I would have put my fingers right there. It had not been the heat. It had been the gorget waiting patiently in trap for me with its misalignment, waiting for that helmet to press down upon my head with its mighty protective weight, to cut off that red stuff without which we cannot function. The moral of this story. It is said, and I am now here to swear that it is true, that the first year in our society, you fight not your opponent, but your armor. I just wish mine had not taken it quite so seriously as to try and kill me on my first day.